Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Beauty Within. It's your host, Ro
and Val.
All right, what do we have today? We're going to cover a topic that's been very highly requested and one that you guys have repeatedly asked us to explain. The mystery surrounding it all.
So they're like twins, one good and one evil, but you can't tell the difference because on the outside they look the same.
Yeah, so if you haven't guessed already, it's the topic of purging versus breakouts.
And like breakouts and skin issues aren't confusing enough, right? But then you add a random skin purge on top of that and we're just like, what is life? What is life?
What is life?
So we totally get it.
And the reason why purging of the skin even happens in the first place varies so much from person to person, regardless of what products it is that caused it. Some people get it, some people don't, and we only really know once the little whiteheads and pustules that are already on our face comes out. Not cool.
So today we're gonna break this all down like the usual, and we'll get into what the term purging on our skin really means, how the skin reacts to the products, and if it really is purging. And then we'll also share with you guys which products and ingredients are more likely to make the skin go through this process, because like we said, not every product does this, and also not every person will necessarily go through it.
And even for us, we've both experienced it, but it was from completely different things, so we'll share our experience and how we dealt with it.
Because sometimes in life we gotta go through the bad to get to the good, right?
So let's start talking about skin.
So if you're like, yo, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. When we pick up a new product and apply it to our skin, there are three main things that can happen.
One, on one end, your skin can love it. Your new BFF, congrats because you hit the jackpot. Keep using it, you're good to go.
You're going great, sweetie.
You're doing great, sweetie, keep going.
Number two, on the other end, your skin can completely freak out. You've made a skinemy and there's irritation, there's burning, there's flare-ups, there's rashes. Probably not all of them together. That would be like really unfortunate.
But sometimes it happens.
Yeah, sometimes all of the above. Not a cute situation, in which case it's pretty obvious that most likely you want to ditch that goo and never apply it or mention it again.
Or number three, your skin starts breaking out in random areas of the face that it never usually does, and the breakouts are little small pustules, quite harmless, no pain or irritation, burning or itchiness, but there's little breakouts.
Yeah. And then you're left kind of staring in the mirror, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes longer than usual, going like, what is this?
What are you doing here?
Yeah. So those are the three main outcomes for any sort of skin situation after like introducing a new product. You recently went through purging for the first time.
Yeah.
So how was it? What happened?
I got threading done.
In Taiwan.
Yeah, or manbing. It's basically threading your whole face. I think that was okay. But then afterwards, she was applying this like exfoliator. You know it's like the Body Shop peel.
Oh,
that like gentle peel.
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's more of a physical exfoliant than a chemical exfoliant.
Yeah.
Bear this in mind. We're on the streets of Taiwan. It's like a little umbrella hut.
Yeah, apparently that's
with little
very
stools.
common.
It's very common. And I think that was what broke me out.
The products used after. Because your skin is also bare after the
Yeah,
threading.
exactly. I think your pores are open, and then she put winter melon to help cool it and to soothe it.
But you brought up a good point, because it's the exfoliating step, which we'll get into a little bit later. For me, because I use like a lot of acne products from time to time, it speeds up the renewal of the skin. And so like after certain products, I'll see it along here. I'm like, why
Just
are there
here?
even more? Yeah. And then it only happens with some products. It's not like all glycolic or all lactic or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, this is confusing, and we're on the same boat. Because even you were like, am I breaking
No,
out?
but the thing is, it like slowly came out.
Yeah.
It was like a day or two after I started seeing little bumps.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't normal. And then a few days later, they like started growing out more. And a few days later, they turned into little whiteheads. And a few days
they
more,
matured.
I was like, oh my God, what is
They
going
just
on?
like evolved quickly.
Yeah.
And then,
It
there
like
was just,
it
little
inflamed and then
things.
it turned little white and then it just eventually disappeared.
Yes, so that is our purging experience. for dry skin, like combo and oily. So it can happen to anyone.
Yes. With all that being said, now to understand which ones we're potentially dealing with and why we need to understand what's really happening below the surface of our skin with each one a little more.
So going back to how a pimple forms in the first place under our skin.
It starts off with one of our precious little pores becoming clogged, most likely by the cocktail-lifted skin oils and bacteria that we accumulate throughout our days.
And this all gets stuck with the dead skin cells that can't fly away off our skin like it normally would. And so it forms an inflamed pore, also called a microcomedone. And these are typically just chilling under the skin. And oftentimes you can't even see it if you were to just like look at it on the surface, because they are like deeper and they're not really reactive. They're just chilling.
But the longer this kind of harmless microcomedone hangs out under the skin, the more likely it will slowly but surely become not so micro. And from here, they can develop into a whitehead, blackhead, pimples, or even a cyst.
So just imagine like a baby fetus pimple that you can barely see. You can't see the bump or anything like that. It's invisible, and then it grows.
According to Lab Muffin, it can take up to 8 weeks for a microcomedone to rear its ugly baby head to the surface, and obviously breakouts of any sort can happen for many different reasons, including internal reasons like hormones, our time of month, not cleansing or even exfoliating properly, and external factors like weather and the environment.
So now that's cleared up, let's get into the purging part of it. What is purging? Okay, so we've bought all these products, or we have a new product that we're all excited about to slather all over our face, right? Hoping that it'll somehow change our life, like either soothe or reduce dark areas of hyperpigmentation, whatever it is. But sometimes it really hits us in the face, literally, with a bunch of little breakouts, or even whiteheads or pustules.
This is when you might be experiencing a temporary condition known as skin purging. It's not something that necessarily happens to everyone, but if it does happen, it's usually when we introduce a new product into our skincare routine that we haven't used before, and it's usually products with specific ingredients that help to speed up our skin turnover rate.
And remember, our skin naturally turns over and sheds skin by itself anyway, but certain ingredients will make this process much quicker and more rapid.
So going back to the microcomedones that we talked about that are lingering on the surface of our skin purging ingredients are essentially pushing these microcomedones to rise to the surface quicker, and this is because of the accelerated exfoliation and increased skin cell turnover that's happening on the skin when we use certain ingredients.
Yeah, which is probably what happened to you. But fun fact, the shedding of our skin is known as desquamation. Desquamation. So if you've ever had this happen, the first tip is to think about the product that you've introduced and what ingredients it might have in it.
If we think about ingredients that speed up skin renewal and regeneration, what comes to mind? We know.
So these include enzyme exfoliants, which can be like gentle fruit-based ones, which are very similar to our good old chemical exfoliating friends like AHAs and BHAs that we talk to death about, like glycolic, lactic, mandelic acid, and even gluconolactone, which is a milder exfoliant known as PHA. And all these work by dissolving the sticky glue that's holding the dead skin together and allowing the new fresh skin to be formed.
Other ingredients that are well documented and also work by increasing skin renewal and can cause purging are acne-related ingredients like tretinoin, adapalene, retinols, and retinoids, and benzoyl peroxide, because it's renewing the top layers of skin much faster than normal so that dead skin doesn't get clogged in the pores.
And that's why we break out in the first place. And even facial services that you go and like pay money for can result in purging, like laser treatments or hydrofacials, microneedling, microdermabrasion, and obviously facials using these chemical peels, which is very often.
Because again, oftentimes they use these ingredients and methods aimed at turning over new skin more quickly, exfoliating and shedding the top layers so that our skin looks bright and youthful.
Like at Ling, we used the malic acid peel, and then she used,
I think for you, the apple.
yeah, that's the malic. So for some people, not only will these ingredients exfoliate that top layer of skin, but it will also simultaneously push out that gunk and impurity that's lying dormant underneath So yes, that's why it happens.
And that's kind of the main reason why it's so hard to tell whether if it's your skin freaking out, saying, nope, not having any of this, breakout, or it's like pimples that were existing underneath without you even knowing, wearing invisible cloaks until finally being revealed and going, everyone evacuate, we've been exposed. Purge!
And the purging process can last anywhere from a couple of days to even 4 to 6 weeks, because this is about how long our skin takes to naturally replace themselves in a full, complete skin cycle. Yeah.
Also, if it's dealing with breakouts in the purging process, the turnover of those pimples should also be faster than normal because it's basically making your baby pimples grow up faster, much faster.
Yeah.
Like, come out!
So if you think about it, it's kind of a good thing. It just doesn't look like the best situation on the surface. But the good thing is it shouldn't last that long, and it's pretty harmless to see a few like whiteheads and pustules hanging out.
Okay, so now we understand the purging part. Now we have to make sure we're not just breaking out. If your skincare products do not contain any of these ingredients and you're seeing breakouts, then this might not be purging. It's more likely that your skin's telling you that whatever you introduce into your routine is not meshing well with your skin type and your skin is not having it and telling you to stop.
Yeah. And in this case, it's more of a reaction that occurs when the product is either causing new clogged pores or there's increased irritation on the skin, which means the breakouts will be scattered more randomly all over and it's like more painful. And you know, there's like pain with it. With your purging, there wasn't.
Oh no, it was not random. It's like a group here, a group here, a group here. Yeah. So it was very, I could see.
Calculated.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
For example, if you introduce a product like a cleanser or moisturizer without these active ingredients, then it's most likely more of a negative reaction. Maybe the moisturizer's consistency is too comedogenic and clogging your pores, causing more breakouts, in which case you should stop using that moisturizer. Or maybe it has other ingredients that your skin just doesn't like and doesn't want to play with.
And also, now that there's a lot of the like all natural brands and products out there on the market that use very minimal ingredients but are also loaded with a lot of plant-based ingredients, sometimes they claim that their products are causing purging because your skin is detoxifying from all the synthetic chemicals we're previously using, but that's kind of a false statement in our eyes, because why would your skin become more angry if you're reducing the amount of ingredients, right? I don't know. So it's kind of...
At the same time though, a lot of people when they first start detoxing and like cutting out coffee and like eating not meat, like being vegan or like vegetarian, their body physically goes through a purge too.
Like you'll start sweating.
That's like a
and all
detox
that.
purge.
Anyway, so that's just something to think about. And even if synthetic chemicals were bad, which they're not really, so yeah, I guess it depends on like each person and the type of product you're dealing with.
Another important tip and something to look out for to tell whether if it's purging or just breakouts is to look at where the little pustules or whiteheads are happening.
When your skin really is purging, the breakouts will appear in places that they typically already do because they're helping bring to the surface what's underneath the skin, right? And when you have like hyperactive glands. So for me, I did see this. You know, like as I said, it's always just this bottom region. If I find that like I use a new product and I break out on the forehead or the cheeks, I definitely know that's not purging because I never break out on those areas. Yeah, or like the nose or anything like that. But if it's bottom half, I'm like, okay, try it out for a little bit longer.
And for me, because I have dry, dehydrated skin, I guess I'm blessed that I don't experience breakouts as often.
Yeah.
If I do, it's during the time of the month. I'll have one, you know, here, or if I eat too much spicy or hot foods, I'll get like a one or two here.
Yeah.
But it's never like
In a blue moon.
Yeah, but I've never broken out like that before,
Yeah.
and it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Like it was like what Phil said,
Like
it was
on
like
a
any
normal
other
day.
day. Yeah. And so for me, I think because that's never happened to me, I just realized like, okay, I should just be very careful of not accepting skincare exfoliation on the streets of Taiwan.
But it's funny because then it like brought to surface
Everything.
Yeah.
And it might be from the threading too.
But if it's not like combined with any like rash or intensive drying,
No.
then that's fine. You can kind of just keep at it for a while.
The ramp up and the cool down was maybe 2-3 weeks, but then the actual, when it was like red and flamed and I saw little whiteheads, was maybe less than a week. As a rule of thumb, we would say that as long as new little whiteheads aren't popping up all over the place each time you use a specific product, then it should be okay. But you'll definitely want to stop using that as soon as it happens, especially if there's any other sort of irritation like itchiness and or rash. And this is a good time to try and figure out which ingredient in that product your skin is causing heightened sensitivity and that it's not reacting well with.
Because this is how some of you realize that you don't react well with certain ingredients that work for other people, right? Like in our niacinamide video, we're like, oh my God, I love it. But some people are like, oh my God, I reacted so badly to it. And it's not that the ingredient is bad, it's just that your skin doesn't react well, which means you just can't tolerate that as normal. So you just gotta find what didn't work for you in that specific product through these experiences.
The key takeaway is to be aware of the areas you normally experience breakouts prior to starting new products or treatments. That way you have a better idea of whether those treatments or products are doing your skin harm or not.
So maybe some of you are wondering, can I reduce or minimize purging? And I think it's hard to tell beforehand whether or not purging is even going to happen on your skin with a product or not, and you kind of have to just wait for it to happen and then realize, because it might not happen at all.
But there are always safer methods to introduce new products into your skincare routine, especially when it comes to these acne or chemical exfoliating ingredients.
So as we said, you always want to start low and slow, and once you know that your skin can tolerate that amount, then you can start increasing if you need to.
But keep in mind, you might not even need to increase it either, like a daily AHA toner with 2% lactic or glycolic acid can be super useful and gentle enough to keep your skin nice and fresh.
So why push the limit if you don't have to, right? And go all the way up to 8% if you don't need it in your life. It's not like the higher the better.
And generally what works best is, let's say if you have your go-to cleanser, toner, serum, moisturizer, SPF, if you want to introduce a new product or any new thing into your routine, we would recommend just switching one out. Not doing like a complete overhaul of your routine.
Like everything changes.
Although that's what we do.
We do. But I also feel like we know our skin very well.
And the new products that we introduce in have generally been these very hydrating, moisturizing, soothing ingredients that we know our skin reacts well to.
And you can't really go wrong with them.
Yeah. But if I'm ever trying a new chemical exfoliant or anything that's more intense, because we haven't been using these types of products as much, I'll make sure everything else that I do for the week is very gentle and I can rely on, and then I'll just try that. I'll just add in that one thing.
For at least 1 or 2 weeks. If you're just at home and you're a normal human being who's not rotating products like every day. It's kind of like an equation, right? You have like, you put your X once in the equation. And
just once.
Yes. And that way you can be safe. So better safe than sorry. And just a recap of like the different acids, lactic acid is more gentle, PHA is more gentle because the molecular size is bigger, and then glycolic is smaller.
It's the smallest, so it's the most intense.
Yeah, and like potentially irritating, but you know, you have to know your skin a bit, and our favorites are the ordinary lactic acid. There's also the go-to Swipeys that we mentioned recently, and also the Ren Ready Steady Glow AHA tonic.
For glycolic, there's the Pixie Glow tonic and Hallelujah.
Typically, the higher the percentage of the formulations, they're more designed for specific skin types, like acne prone or very oily, because there's no reason why a dry skin person would need that much exfoliation. So just keep that in mind. Higher the number is not always better, and you don't need it if you know you're fine.
And that being said, AHAs are generally, lactic acid is gentle enough to use daily. Well, it really depends on the formulation, right? But most of the glycolic acids we mentioned, the Pixie could be daily, the Hallelujah is not daily. And with all the products we just mentioned, it's worth noting that some of them are daily use, and they'll say on the back of the packaging, and some of them are, you know, once or twice a week use to start as you slowly build up your tolerance. But we would recommend, you don't really need like a heavy glycolic toner like the Hallelujah.
I think you can feel it on your skin. If you're feeling very like crusty, I think that's a good time to...
Or if you feel congested, like the blackheads and like you can't breathe.
And the pores are looking really filled, that's a good time to use chemical exfoliating toners. So that just poses the question we always like to reiterate, like just know how to read your skin so that you know how to really like nurture it.
What do you need?
What do you want? Let me help you.
Let me help you help yourself.
We are one.
But really?
So that's purging in a nutshell, purging versus breakouts. If you want to learn more about how the skin purges in maybe more details, you can check out articles from Lab Muffin Beauty or even from beautifulwithbrains.com and some other sources which we'll leave in the description below, because they do a really good job in summarizing the differences that we mentioned. So you can just reiterate that. Hopefully this has helped clarify what skin purging is and that it is a real thing and it can happen to anyone depending on the products you're using and just how your skin reacts, which is unique to every single person.
Because we're all unique.
Yes.
Just remember, be patient and really learn to read and understand your skin. Don't freak out and give your skin time to adjust, because I think we know straight away if something is really horrible for our skin.
Yeah.
You can just kind of tell, in
Yeah.
which case our survival skills will kick in and we will automatically just stop
Yeah.
using it and like push it away, versus something much more mild and not irritating, in which case you can try to let it run its course and see what happens.
Because seriously, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, this feels wrong.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Before this video, I thought purging was something more like intense.
Bad.
Yeah, because the word purging just sounds like
It's intense.
it's like purging, but it's just
But
they're
it's
just little micro,
And it's making way for the good.
yeah.
And let us know if you've had this happen, what your experiences were, because we're also curious. Like, we have our experience and we want to know yours. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.